In this bizarre, unpredictable world we live in, the concept of fate often takes unexpected turns, leading to tales both strange and tragic. From the eerily coincidental to the downright improbable, humanity's history is peppered with stories of individuals whose lives met untimely ends in the most peculiar of circumstances. But before we get into today's stories, if you are a fan of the true dark and mysterious tales, make sure to like this video and subscribe, as it really helps out a beginner YouTube channel like myself. So without further ado, let's get into today's story. October 28th, 2023 was an anticipated date for the hockey fans of Sheffield, England, as their home team Sheffield Steelers were to take on the American away team Nottingham Panthers in their very own arena situated in the town of Sheffield. And in the American away team was a player by the name of Adam Johnson, a 29-year-old who just got signed with the Nottingham Panthers, and this would be his first game with his new team. He was determined to make an impressive debut. The match started out with a bang. With over 8,000 spectators, the stadium was filled with a roaring crowd. The air crackled with anticipation as the two teams stepped onto the ice, each fueled by a burning desire to claim victory. From the first puck drop, the game erupted into a fierce battle, with sticks clashing and the skates carving intricate patterns on the slick surface. The crowd roared with every thunderous check and lightning-fast breakaway, their cheers echoing through the arena like a symphony. With every slap shot, the players poured their hearts and souls into the game, their determination igniting a fiery passion that seemed to engulf the entire rink. Adam was doing phenomenal in the first minutes of the game, establishing an impressive presence to both his teams and his opponents. However, as the hockey match raged on, the 35th minute marked a tragic turn of events that would forever change the course of this particular game. In the heat of the action, Adam found himself entangled in a collision with an opponent team's player named Matt Petgrave. In a blink of an eye, Matt Petgrave's skate inadvertently slashed Adam's throat, a horrifying moment frozen in time as the arena fell silent in disbelief. With adrenaline coursing through his veins, Adam valiantly attempted to skate towards the safety of the team's bench, his determination overshadowed only by a trail of blood left in his track. But fate had dealt a cruel blow. As the gravity of the situation unfolded, Adam's strength weakened and he collapsed onto the unforgiving ice. In a display of camaraderie, his fellow players formed a protective circle around him until paramedics arrived. Adam was immediately transferred to Sheffield's Northern General Hospital, where he unfortunately succumbed to his injury. In response to Johnson's death, the Athletic Commission suspended all games scheduled for the following day. Leagues and teams worldwide issued statements mourning John's death and held pre-game ceremonies in his honor. Following Johnson's death, hundreds of fans assembled outside Nottingham's arena, the home rink of Panthers, alongside Panther players and staff to lay flowers and other tributes in a makeshift memorial. Moments of silence were also held across the NHL. Adam's death prompted an examination of player safety in the game of hockey and led to several mandates on neck protection. The EIHA, the English Ice Hockey Association, the governing body of the sports in England and Wales, at all levels below the Elite League, introduced a neck guard mandate beginning in 2024. Gary Hoy was a 39-year-old successful corporate and securities lawyer for the Holden Day Wilson law firm in Toronto. The prominent law firm was composed of 90 talented lawyers and held offices at the financial district of downtown. The view from the firm's suites on the 24th floor would have provided a stunning view while work was carried out and meetings were held at the busy office. And on July 9, 1993, was a regular Friday workday at the Wilson law firm. Gary had been working at the law firm since 1979, had no children, and recently separated from his wife, but his career had nowhere to go but up. With his career in good hands, Gary was ready to finish work and enjoy the rest of his Friday evening. However, before the workday ended, Gary attended a reception at the office along with his colleagues to welcome some graduate students interested in their apprenticeship programs. And as part of the event, Gary took the students on a tour of the 24th floor offices and decided to carry out a little party trick. This particular party trick was the one that he had completed successfully on a number of occasions. And with that, Gary, in a mixture of showing off and getting a few laughs and demonstrating the strength of a modern Canadian architecture, Gary stepped back to gain momentum and threw himself at one of the office windows at full force. And to absolutely no one's surprise except the crowd, he bounced off safely, as he did every other time he performed this stunt. However, on this particular day, for some reason, he decided to do it a second time. And with that, just as he did before, Gary lunged back to gain a bit of momentum and once again threw himself to the window at full force. However, this time, the window, the same one which had taken his weight just moments ago, as Gary made impact with the windshield, the glass simply popped out of the building and sent Gary plunging hundreds of feet to his gruesome end. While Gary's death was certainly unusual, retellings of the story tends to forget the large number of people that were unfortunate witnesses. From the people going about their day in the incredibly busy Toronto district below, to the 30 lawyers and colleagues that parted ways with the firm following this event. While the story may be amusing from a detached and somewhat flabbergasted perspective, the effect this freak accident had on those present were irreversible. Hurricane Harbor, or previously known as Waterworld, is a seasonal water park full of towering water slides located in Concord, California. And one of these rides stood the Banzai Pipeline, the tallest structure among the attractions in the park. Decorated by jaunty pink and blue flags, the tower slides normally gives riders a twisting 15-second ride from the top to a 3-foot deep pool at the bottom. One lifeguard is posted at the top of the slides and another at the bottom. And most importantly, the riders are allowed onto the ride only one at a time. During the summer of 1997, the graduates of Napa High School enjoyed a long, fun day at the Concord Water Park. They were enjoying their last summer together before they all set on their own career paths. And right before they left the park, the group of seniors decided to uphold a classic school tradition of what was known as clogging a ride. The plan was to cause a massive jam in the Banzai Pipeline water slide, triggering a chaotic pileup before shooting into the waters below together. They would all rush down the slide holding hands, and when they've gone deep enough, they would use their other hands to stop themselves causing the clog. And on June 2nd of 1997, at 2:45 p.m., 33 seniors had successfully piled down the slide. And Alinda Franco, who was one of the last students to go down the slide, recalls hearing a loud crack. She says she remembers the sound of the fiberglass cracking, which is ingrained in her mind forever. Following the crack, the slide suddenly split open, which sent the 33 students plummeting 40 feet to the concrete below. The concrete floor and the surrounding waters were filled with blood, and agonizing screams of the students were heard in all directions. A lot of the students had bounced off of the water slide poles on their way down and landed on top of each other, making their fall injuries even more unfathomable. Out of the 33 students that fell 40 feet onto the concrete floor, quite miraculously, only one of them was fatal. 18-year-old Quimby was the last one to go down the slide and hit her head on the concrete floor when she fell. The following week, over 800 students gathered up to attend Quimby's memorial service, which was held at the very school's gymnasium. Most of her friends were still in wheelchairs from the fall, and although a significant amount of time has passed, many are still suffering from the chronic injuries and the haunting memory. In July of 2013, 45-year-old João Maria de Souza came home from a long day of work. He lived in a small town of Caratinga in Brazil with his wife and kids. And just like any other night, he climbed onto his bed with his wife next to him and went to sleep. However, he would have one of the rudest awakening a human could ever experience. After a couple of hours, when the couple were fast asleep, a 1.5-ton cow fell 8 feet through the roof of their home and crushed Hal right in his bed. It is understood that the cow escaped the local grazing ground, went downhill, broke through a fence of Hal's home, and climbed onto a corrugated iron roof, which then collapsed. According to his family, Zhao cried out for help as he waited hours to receive treatment. He suffered from a fractured leg, several injuries to the chest, and abdomen and internal bleeding. Zhao was seen urinating blood as he waited for help. According to the local media reports, Zhao was conscious after the incident, but had to wait too long to be seen by doctors, a claim that was subsequently denied by the hospital. Zhao's brother told the media that being crushed by a cow in your bed is the last way you expect to leave this earth. But if it wasn't the cow that killed our Zhao, it was the unacceptable time he spent waiting to be examined. Zhao's mother also told the media, "I didn't bring my son up to be killed by a falling cow," marking it as one of the most unusual yet devastating ways to exit this life. On January 22nd, 2023, 30-year-old Joseph Austin Smith was sitting in the passenger seat of his pickup truck after a long day of hunting. Although a plumber by trade, Joseph had a special love for the outdoors, hunting, and most of all, his dog. And on this particular evening, Joseph was sitting in his truck after his usual hunting trip in Kansas. However, he wasn't the only one inside the vehicle. Right behind him in the rear seat was his beloved dog, we'll call him Louie. Louie was also tired from a long day of hunting and was scrambling around in the back seat to find a comfortable position. This was a common occurrence for Joseph, so he didn't think much of it. However, as Louie was fumbling around in the back seat, Louie accidentally stepped on the very rifle that was placed in the back seat by Joseph after their hunting session. And in a matter of a few milliseconds, the rifle opened fire and struck out a bullet towards the front of the truck. Unfortunately, the bullet hit Joseph from the back and was killed instantly. Joseph was an employee of the Browns Plumbing Services, in which the company created a GoFundMe page on behalf of Joseph's family and has gathered more than $11,000 in donations. One of Joseph's coworkers, Jessica, commented, "Joseph was a truly amazing man. He was kind, smart, funny, and very loving. Every time he walked through the door, he would make someone smile, either from being a goofball or just his natural presence of making everything better. It wasn't hard to love Joe, because he always made you feel like you were one of a kind and never left a conversation without letting you know he loved you." What happened to Joseph's dog Louie in the aftermath is unknown to the public. Jennifer Riordan was a 43-year-old businesswoman who had booked a flight home from New York to Dallas, where she lived. On April 17, 2018, Jennifer made her way to the airport, checked in, and successfully boarded her flight. She was seated in 14A, which happened to be situated right behind the left wing engine. Jennifer was settling into her window seat and buckled in her seatbelt for her flight home. Jennifer felt a familiar mix of excitement and apprehension. The hum chatter and rustle of bags being stowed overhead filled the airplane cabin as other passengers found their seats. Suddenly, the overhead announcement cracked to life, signaling imminent departure. The familiar voice of flight attendants echoed through the cabin, delivering the usual safety instructions. Jennifer listened attentively, although it would end up being futile. With the final click of seatbelts and a reassuring glance out the window, the plane began to taxi down the runway. As the engines roared to life, the aircraft surged forward, and just like that, the plane took off into the bright morning skies of New York with 149 souls on board. As the flight continued at 32,000 feet above sea level, a sudden and catastrophic event unfolded within the left engine. Fan blade number 13 fractured, sending shrapnel flying against the aircraft's fuselage. The force of the impact caused Jennifer's window to crack and ultimately be ripped off of the airplane. The immediate change in cabin pressure immediately sucked Jennifer through the opening, and within a matter of a few seconds, her upper body was exposed to the icy cold temperature and roaring wind. And inside the cabin, chaos ensued as neighboring passengers grappled with the wind trying to pull Jennifer back into the airplane. For the next 17 harrowing minutes, the pilots battled to control the crippled plane while passengers railed together in a desperate attempt to save Jennifer's life. And despite their heroic effort, Jennifer, a mother of two, suffered grave injuries. The scene inside the aircraft was one of panic and anguish, with Jennifer's blood staining the hands of those who tried in vain to pull her back inside. Amidst the chaos, the cockpit filled with the blare of altitude warning horns, signaling the pilots of the sudden loss of pressure. Many passengers reported thinking they were going to die, and many texted goodbye to relatives, friends, and families. Fortunately, despite the catastrophic circumstances, the pilot was able to successfully land the plane, bringing everyone to their safety, except for Jennifer. As officials have sought to offer reassurances about the rigor of agency oversight in the months since the 737 MAX crashes, they have repeatedly said that over the past decade, U.S. airlines have carried 7 billion passengers around the country with just one fatality, and Jennifer was at 1 in 7 billion.